What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations and 2020 podcasts news award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And they liked me so much, they did it earlier, a few years ago, 2018. I received the Innovation Award given out by the same organization. Also, once a month, I host the only online show in the world for fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. And also it's co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And one more thing on the layer of pancakes, I also am the board chair of the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit based in the United States that showcases Blacks in food, wine, and travel throughout the diaspora. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you know that Dr. Vibe likes to bring new friends on, but this lady to me isn't a new friend, but for many of you will be a new friend. So let me just share you with her. Deborah L Mills is a wife, mother, and grandmother. She enjoys all things family. She is a caregiver for her mother who received the diagnosis of dementia and then Alzheimer's disease almost 2 decades ago. She's a certified life coach and mentor with a heart to see people succeed. As an Alzheimer's and dementia, as Alzheimer's and dementia are rising concerns that affect many families across the world, she has written a children's book to introduce kids to this topic. This is a great idea. The name of the book is called Granny Needs My Help, A Child's Look at Dementia and Alzheimer's. It's a heartfelt personal tale that families everywhere can relate to. The book is written for the younger generation, but is having a profound effect on people of all ages. She is thrilled to share her work with you, and she's going to be sharing it with us today. And she hopes to open up your conversations in homes around the globe. So welcome back, Deborah L Mills. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's
Excellent.
an honor to be here.
Well, you know what? You're not a stranger to me, but you're a stranger to most. But I'm going to give you a pop quiz. When were you on the Dr. Vibe Show? Do you remember? Approximately?
6 years ago.
You're very good. Do you remember the month?
Oh, the month. It was warm. Was it around March?
No.
No.
Further down.
May, June,
Further.
July, August, September. Keep going. October, November. 6 years ago. No, December.
No,
January.
No. You went too far. You went too far.
All 12 months.
But I told you to move. Okay.
February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October
1st, 2014. And I'm always so humbled that people from long time come and reach out to me. So I'm happy to have you back.
Absolutely. I enjoyed my conversation with you 6 years ago. I remember it to this day, our subject and what we talked about and how profound that was.
Do you want to tell people what we talked about 6 years ago?
Oh, yeah. We talked about, are there any good Black men left? Okay. And my answer, absolutely, unequivocally, yes. Yes.
Yes. Someone has faith in us.
It shouldn't even be a question.
You know what?
The answer, yes.
If you're comfortable, we need to revisit that topic from your perspective.
Absolutely.
We will schedule that. I think it's a very applicable topic at all times, but especially now in the goings on in a lot of Black men's lives, directly or indirectly, since you were last on the platform.
Yeah, the world has, well, I won't say the world has changed, but some things have come to surface that were already there, but now they're in the forefront. And so how do our men keep their confidence and not let this get them off track? You know who you are.
Wow. Part 2's coming, folks. Get ready. And for those who are watching live, please put in the comments. We will share them with Deborah, and she will answer them to her best capabilities. But let's find out a little bit about you. There's, for a lot of my audience, it's the first time they're meeting you. Give a little history about yourself. Born, grow up, life a little bit back in the past.
Oh.
Share whatever you'd like with our audience.
Well, back in the past, so I am a native of Northern Virginia. I grew up in the United States in the Northern Virginia area, like 15 minutes outside of the DC area, 10 minutes from the Pentagon. I know that's something that most people can locate is the Pentagon. So I'm really close to the Pentagon. My mother worked there her whole life. So I grew up there. We never really went very far. My husband was military for a while, so we traveled a little bit, but through the times I've spoken to you last, I'm now grandmother of 3. That's a big change for me. I love being
Hold on, hold on, hold
grandma.
on. How many?
3. I have 3 grandbabies now.
Hold on a second. It's only been like a little over 6 years since we chat. Like 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 3 grandbabies and 1 granddog. Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
Yes.
Grand dog. Okay. You roll with it, Deborah. Keep on going. I'm enjoying the ride.
So I love all of them dearly. And, it's amazing to me because as we were just speaking about Black men, is that I got married at a very young age. And that's also a statistic that most people say it's not going to work. But for us, it's 33 years later, and we've got 3 grown children.
Hold on. I love celebrating success. So I just want to have a moment there of congratulations and thank you for being a great example of Black success.
Oh, thank you.
Continue on.
Thank you. It'll be 34 years in a couple of months. And, it's just loving life. It's what you choose to focus on. It doesn't mean that every day is going to be great, but you have a choice of where you focus. I had somebody to ask me, how do you smile all the time? How are you always happy? And my answer is, I'm not. Let's just be honest. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends on where you choose to place your focus. I wasn't happy when my mom was diagnosed with dementia, less happy when they didn't transfer that over to calling it Alzheimer's. But I get a choice of where I'm going to focus and how I'm going to deal with things. So that's pretty much me.
So, Deborah, where do you get your foundation from? Because what you shared with me makes me feel that you have a solid core, solid foundation. Where do you get that from?
Well, my foundation is definitely in God. I'm a God girl. I'm God's girl on, 24/7. I'm God's girl. I know he's not going to leave me nor forsake me. That's my faith and my grounding. And I also have a good family support. One thing about having kids young is that you're still fairly young and they're grown. So my children are a great support, and now 2 of my boys are married, so their wives are a good support. So we have a good family unit and support system.
Great. I don't want to get off topic too much, but I think it's very important that you talk this now to our audience. What is different now with young couples compared to when, and I respectfully say, because there's 2 things my mother said, never talk to women about: age and weight. So I'm just going to say, when you were in their state back then, what is different and what is the same?
I think if you really boil it down, it's pretty much the same because it's life. Whatever year you're born, whatever year you get married, it's life. And you have to figure out how to handle it. I think the thing is different is that as human beings, we give up on each other quickly.
Oh, say that again.
Yeah, I do think that's the change, is that nowadays we live in kind of a microwave society where we want everything perfect and perfect fast. So when it's not perfect, we tend to give up and let's move on. It's not working. Our differences can't come together. We're going to go our separate ways. So I think life is still the same. Same challenges. When I got married, 33 years ago versus somebody that gets married today, you've got the challenge of kids. You've got the challenge of bills. You've got the challenge of 2 personalities coming together. All of that's the same, but we didn't give up on each other. It's not that it was easy. I was 19, my husband was 20. We had to learn and grow together.
Wow.
So it's not that it was easy, but we were determined that this doesn't have to be microwave. This has to be for longevity.
You there's about 4 different conversation topics I need to bring you back for. Just in the first 10 minutes and 54 seconds, you're dropping knowledge bombs on this. There's so many different aspects. If you're having the time in future, I'd like you to come back and have conversations about marrying young, about the grandchildren, etc. And having that foundation. So with God being important in your life, who introduced God to you?
Oh, my mama. That would be my mom. She was a wonderful Bible study teacher. Back in her day, they didn't let women teach so much, but she was afforded to teach Bible study, and she even taught Bible study at the Pentagon. She is a great woman. I don't want to say was, because my mother is still here. Mentally, she's not here, so was in that aspect. But my mom introduced me to God at a young age, and she'd sit me on the side of her bed, and we would pray together, and that was her answer for things. You talk to God about it, because I may not have the answer, but God does.
That's wonderful. Wow. That's a great legacy.
That's what it
Absolutely.
is, a legacy.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's get into the book. But before we get into the book, I'd like you to give our audience your definition, your lived definition indirectly of dementia and Alzheimer's, because we could read in a book.
Yeah.
You have been in that environment. What is your definition of each one of those things?
My lived definition, it's not in a book anywhere, and it may not be, orthodox, but my lived definition is a diagnosis that your brain is being affected in a way that causes you to almost live your life in reverse order. Whereas what you once learned, you're going back through those things chronologically. My mom has gone back from being, this high-powered adult working at the Pentagon to she was discovering things new for the first time. I remember giving her ketchup, and she was like, "Ooh, what's this? This is good." It was for her, it was the first time she had it, to her not remembering my name, to her, it's just a gradual going back in time process. That's what it has been in my case. And from dementia to Alzheimer's, it was if they waited a few years until this thing actually settled in to give it a name, because dementia is an umbrella term. So under dementia is Alzheimer's, is not Lou Gehrig's disease. Oh, it's escaping my mind at the moment, but it'll come back to me. But dementia is an umbrella term with many different conditions falling underneath it. So it's just a slow walk backwards. Is a easy definition for Alzheimer's and dementia.
Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely a workable definition and a livable definition of both those things. When did those things start becoming part of your existence or your family's existence? If it's comfortable for you to share that.
Absolutely. It's been almost 20 years now. It was around 2005 that my mom was actually diagnosed. But before that, there's time that takes place. There's little things that occur that you just think the person is, it's just normal. She's forgetting a lot, no big deal. And it was really the condition, the onset of the condition, and we didn't realize it. But the greater those things and the more they begin to occur, it's like, let's go to the doctor and get this checked out. And then you have a formal diagnosis. So it's been close to 20 years.
That's incredible. How was the initial reaction from your mother and your family?
I don't think my mom fully understood what was going on. Um, that's there's nothing good about Alzheimer's. Let me just say that. If I had to pick out one joyful caveat, is that she doesn't recognize the condition that she's in. So
Right.
my mom wasn't remorseful or sad. At first she may have had like a few moments of question. Like, can they just give me some medicine for this? What's going on? Well, can you take me back to the doctor so I can ask him some questions? So I don't think she had a full understanding of the terminology at that point. Um, so if there's been any blessing, is that because my mom was a very prideful person. Everything had to be just and so and all together. And so if there's any good thing, it's that she does not recognize how life is for her right now.
That's interesting. Very, very interesting. So, and the family reaction initially.
The family, I think it was the same thing because nobody really talks to you about this subject. You
Hmm.
don't know what you're in for down the road. Even the doctors, to me, don't give a clear picture of what life is really going to be like. They may say it's hard, you're going to see changes, she'll digress, but that's not a good face of reality on, what's actually happening. Even still today, I just want answers. Give me an answer. And they're not able to provide it because the disease is so different in each category, in each case. Some similarities, but things are different. So they can't give you definites.
So, are you saying that you've had a lack of support and or clarity during this journey from the medical end?
No, I wouldn't call it a lack of support. I believe they are trying their best,
Right.
but their knowledge is limited. I mean, they're practicing medicine and we use that terminology for a reason. So it's no insult to the medical profession. It just sort of is what it is. Whereas, say, one person's loved one, they may have only lived 8 years with this disease. I have a friend who her husband had early onset. He didn't live very many years at all.
Oh,
And he's about the same age as me. Whereas my mom is going to be going into year 20 soon. They'll tell you,
let me just interrupt there. Is that common
yeah,
for
yeah,
that long?
yes. It's like there's no real common. So I've
Okay.
heard of people who've lived 20, 25 years. I've heard of people who've only lived 8 years. Um, so that's why the doctors aren't able to pinpoint what your situation is going to look like.
Right. Understood. Understood. I want to ask, I don't know if I'm going to, I'll put it out now. How much of this is discussed in the African American community?
My experience, and of course, my experience is not all there is. So I can just talk from my vantage point, and it's not discussed a lot. And I think because as a child, I learned from my mom that when there was some like a mental issue going on, they sort of hid it. They didn't bring it out to the open and, discuss it and have conversations about it. They kind of hid what was going on because there was a stigma associated with something mental. And Alzheimer's, it it's a mental issue.
Hmm.
And there was an
In
embarrassment, if I can
Yeah,
say that, there was an
go ahead.
embarrassment that went along with it, that you were embarrassed by the way the person acted. They used the bathroom on the floor. How embarrassing. They took their clothes off when they weren't supposed to. That's embarrassing. And I have figured out and learned that embarrassment is a choice. And you cannot be embarrassed about everything that happens. You'll drive yourself crazy. But years ago, in my mom's era, having a mental issue was an embarrassment and it wasn't talked about.
Hmm. Were you experiencing that in the early days within your community?
Um, I think that I am pretty open and vocal, and I would open up the conversation. And I think once people realized that I wasn't embarrassed, that it was okay to talk about. I didn't put a shame, I didn't attach shame to it.
What did the situation, or has the situation done to your everyday life?
Mm,
Because one of the things, I can speak from experience. A number of years ago, my parents had gone away to Florida. And for the people who are here, I live in Toronto, so it's a little bit of a plane ride.
mhm.
And I had a grand aunt that was not doing well, and they took her to the hospital. I got a call from the doctor at the hospital while I was at work saying, your granddad isn't doing well. Um, you may want to come and check in with her. And I said, okay, no problem. And I said, well, my parents are in Florida. And he said, well, she ain't going to make it another 24 hours.
Wow.
And what was really amazing, this is a number of years ago, the doctor actually set up a conference call with myself and my parents who were in Florida at the time, talking about the situation. But they took some time to get back. I had to start handling funeral arrangements.
Hmm.
So one of the things, and I've got to do a conversation about this, is us taking care of our elders. We are not, correct me if I'm wrong, many of us are not really equipped to
Yes.
this. So I want for you to speak to power about that, because you've been doing it for 20 plus years.
Yeah, well, you're not equipped for this. Who can equip you for this? I don't know if that's possible, but we can have some information under our belts, and with information, you feel stronger because you have something to go back and lean on. At least to develop a community where it's okay to talk about such things. I've had to do the same thing that you're talking about, and I had to plan my dad's funeral. You asked, how did this affect my daily life? So my dad was ill, and he was the first one that I started taking care of. And in the midst of taking care of him, we noticed that my mom was doing things that were, just not quite her norm. So my daily life was, I mean, my daily life is still affected. It was affected more greatly when I took care of both of them. My dad passed in 2016, so it was greatly affected. They were my responsibility for a long time, the two of them. And so it does affect your daily life because you are constantly thinking, is this person okay? How are they doing? You become their number one advocate as their caregiver.
Wow.
It's like, now, let me tell you, I make sure I have to be home because my mom lives with me. And so I have to be home by a certain time every day because I'm now at the point where I do need constant help, but the caregiver leaves at a certain time each day. So it doesn't matter who's doing what. I'm going home by a certain time because I have to relieve the caregiver.
Well, I'd like to express condolences from the Dr. Vive family on the passing away of your father.
Thank you.
Our condolences. Wow. Let's talk about, how did the book come to existence? Because you've turned this interesting situation to a wonderful piece of literature. Well, how did it come into existence?
So I have had the pleasure of watching my granddaughter with my mom. So be my mom's great granddaughter. And it's like the sweetest thing to watch. So my granddaughter, she has been around my mom since she was born. So, she's grown up watching my mom change, and she likes to help her and get her water or whatever she can do. Or now, I just the other day, my mom, it now takes a little help to get her walking. But my granddaughter was over in the corner cheering her on. Go, Granny, you can do it. Come on, walk, Granny. So, I see that it's taught my granddaughter, or helps her to be compassionate. It gives her opportunity to show love. It shows her that people with a mental challenge, you don't have to be afraid of them, um, and that she can be a big helper in this situation. So that's the inspiration for the book, is seeing the relationship between my granddaughter and my mother.
That's fantastic. That is really cute. Now, okay, you saw the relationship. What sparked the idea of writing a book?
I one day this story just came up in me. Granny needs my help. Granny needs my help, and excuse me, I just sat down and wrote it out. I just sat down and wrote it out
Just like that.
because it's my story. It's
Right.
our story. It was just like that.
Nice. And how long did it take you to complete?
Oh, from start to finish. This
Yes.
was actually a quick work. I would say two and a half, 2.5 months, maybe.
That's
And
it?
it was my first children's book. So it was definitely a quick work. My illustrator, she was the best. I even though it's a children's book, you still want to go through an editor. The editor, she was good. So it was a team effort. You do need a team.
Yes. Absolutely. Wow. Were there were there any parts of this book were difficult for you to write?
Yes. Well, let me say, it was not difficult when I wrote it because I just wrote it out, like I said. But when I went back and read it, that's when my heart sank a little bit. When I went back and actually read the story. Yeah, that brought a tear to my eye.
Were there any parts along the book writing journey that you said, you know what, I can't do this?
No, no, no. It was something that I know I wanted to do. And more so than, honestly, I did not, when I was writing it, think about how much it would affect other people. I thought about it as a legacy for my mom.
Hmm.
And that gave me the okay to go ahead and write the book.
Did you ever tell her along the journey that you were writing a book?
I think, we've read it to her, and, Jose, she likes to read through the book and see herself, her, character in the book. So my mom has heard the story. And unfortunately, at this point, my mom is at the place where even the English language is difficult for her to comprehend. But I talk to her and I tell her, Granny, this is what I'm going to do. Granny, what do you think about this or that? And even though I know she doesn't fully understand what I'm saying, I know that my mom is in there somewhere.
Wow, that's great. So, how long did it take to write the book?
I would say just to write the story, oh my gosh, a day, because the story just
You
came.
make it sound like a day's too long, like a going that's quick.
Now I would say if I'm going back to writing my second book, it may not be like that, but because this one was just in me, it just flowed out. It wasn't a
Mm,
difficult journey. It just began to flow out, and I just had to write down what was coming up in my heart. And so this one was easy. I just had to I write with a pencil, so I won't say pen to paper. Just had to put the pencil to the paper and write it down. Just write it down. And I read it to Jose, which is my granddaughter. I read it to her right after I wrote it, and her response and her reaction was so priceless that I said, okay, maybe I've got something here. Maybe I've got something.
wow. Jose, and what did Jose think about the first time you read it to her?
Well, the joy, well, that reaction, she was just excited, and she was solemn at the same time, because it's not an easy story. It's a fun story, but at the same time, it's not easy because you're talking about someone that's losing the memory.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a happy moment, but a solemn moment at the same time. But I think her biggest joy came when the proof of the book came in, and she saw herself and saw her name in print. Oh boy, she danced all over the house when she saw her name in print.
Nice. Nice. That is fantastic. And what was the feeling when you felt the first finished copy?
I did it. I did it. I actually started this journey, and I finished it. And look, mommy, you're in print. Your name is going to be known all over the world.
Mm. And when did you share that moment with your mother too?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, she's there with me every day. We live in the same house. So my mama's with me
Wow.
every day. So, you know, she shares my life. I share life with her and my grandkids because with all this COVID going on, um, my grandson, one of my grandsons, his daycare shut down. They were like, nope, not doing this
That's
during COVID.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's
And then,
right.
yeah, then my granddaughter, who is now 8, her school is closed. So they're doing virtual learning. So in addition to, my mom and my husband and the caregiver who helps, most days I have my grandson and my granddaughter so that their parents can go to work.
Hmm. Wow. Sounds like oh, man. I'm just thinking of all the changes and all the pivots that you've had to make.
Hmm. It's a constant change. It's a constant pivot because you don't know how this person is going to be from day to day. So if I can kind of walk you through a progression. So, for my mom, at least, it started off forgetting little things. One time she even forgot how to cut on the windshield wipers in the car. She was driving, but she knew enough to pull the car over, take out the manual, and read it. What does it say do? So we go from things like that. And I don't know if you've heard, but this is very common with most Alzheimer's patients that they repeat things over and over because they don't remember what just happened. So one Christmas, the sweetest thing,
Mhm.
we had so many boots to come to the house and so many pillows because my mom didn't remember that she just ordered it.
Yes. Oh my
She'd order it
goodness.
again. She'd order again,
Oh
order
my
again, order again.
goodness.
I mean, literally, I had to call like these online or these home shopping channels and say, please, can you close the account? Please close the account because the stuff was just coming. And it's hard because the companies would say, well, Mrs. Mills, we can close the account, but because your mother is still able to call us and it's her account, we would have to open it back up for her. It's like, no, please, no. But we would just, the items would just keep coming because she didn't recognize that she had just
Mm.
bought it 5 minutes ago. Then you go from that to forgetting where things are in your own home. So I would leave notes around the house, refrigerator, cabinets,
Mm.
cups,
Mhm.
forks, bathroom, so that she would know how to navigate, her own home. Then you progress further and it's, well, where's the bathroom? I don't know where the bathroom is at. So I guess it's okay to go anywhere, and these are things that people don't want to talk about, but it is the reality of it. So then there's the element of now you're cleaning things that you're not used to cleaning. Your loved one hasn't done this on purpose. They don't know. They don't know that they've done something that wasn't correct. You don't fuss at them or scold them. You don't try to teach them because they're not learning. I did have that where people would try to teach my mom things. That's not a part of Alzheimer's. You're forgetting. And trying to teach them something is just a frustration. And then you go further to, now you have to wear a pull up. Then you go further to now you have to wear a diaper. And you long for the days when, they would go to the bathroom around the house because I just want you to have that independence. And then you go to further where they're no longer able to walk by themselves or the language element is gone. So the understanding is gone. It takes 8 minutes to walk down a flight of stairs because there's not a comprehension to step down, step down, just step down, darling, step down. So it increases your patience. It shows you what's on the inside of you and what you're made of. So it's an everyday journey. It's an everyday
Mm.
journey.
Mm. Highs and lows.
Highs and lows. I mean, you're now proud when your loved one makes a full sentence, or when they respond to a conversation with somewhat of an appropriate response. Language can go to baby babble.
Mm,
The language element, it's completely going backwards. They go back to infantile reactions where, when something like the trash can closes and the eyes jump because of the startling. Those are infantile responses, or anything that gets close to you're going to grab it and bite it and put it in your mouth. So it's literally taking the stages backwards.
mm. How were you able to get a child's look of dementia and Alzheimer's? What work was involved in getting that aspect of it done?
It was watching my grandchildren with my mom. It was watching them together. There were points we not at this phase anymore. My mom has progressed beyond this phase, but we would take walks, and now the kids are holding Granny's hand versus Granny holding their hand. So most of the things in the book are true to life, what happened to us. And now I'm sitting my grandchildren and my mom down at the table with a coloring book and crayons. So it's watching the process, watching the process.
Mm. So many success stories here. So many success stories. What was the feeling like? And I always ask this with, especially people who publish books, when you held the first copy of that book.
It was great. It was a sense of accomplishment. It was a sense of accomplishment, and seeing my mom's name there, knowing that
Yeah.
everybody's going to know your name, mommy. You're going through this journey, and we're doing our best to go through it with you, but
Nice.
somebody else will be helped by it, because we don't
Nice.
often think of children in this aspect, but kids are affected too.
I'll parking lot that for a second. Who was the first person you showed the first finished copy to?
Giselle, my granddaughter. Mm-hmm.
And what
It
was her
was
reaction?
just dancing. She danced. She danced. She danced all over the place. She danced.
I don't want to give away too much of the book, but how like from your experience, the children reacting to this, do many parents even pay attention to how the children are reacting? Because your book is serving a very specific area that a lot of people don't think of. Like, a lot of people think, oh, well, Deborah is only going to want to write a book about from her perspective. What are they missing about their effects on their children going through this type of experience?
It's major. It's major. They're little people. They're not like little statues or little, they're little human beings. So all of the emotions and feelings and insecurities and not understanding that we feel as adults, they feel it and experience it too. Whether they
Say that again. It's a very, very, very critical thing you just said.
Yeah, they are just small human beings. They are little people. So the same feelings, emotions, the same hurt and disappointment, the same not knowing what's coming next, even fear, because my granny is not like she used to be. Should I be afraid of her? Kids are going through this with us. It's a family thing. The person who's diagnosed is going through the disease, but the whole family is going through the dilemma.
I love that. I love that. It's so interesting. And I always remember the phrase, looking through the world through child's eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How are you able to look through child's eyes?
I watch them so closely now. My grandson, the 3-year-old, I see him when Granny tries to take his sip cup, or his, that little cup with a straw, that non-spill cup,
Hmm. Hmm.
and he's looking like, that's my cup. So I'm watching the child's perspective. I don't glaze over the child's perspective. I'm watching the child's perspective. Just the other day, we are sitting at the table, and I was actually sitting in the other room, but my grandson is there, my mom, and some others are sitting at the table. And my mom, she doesn't know, so she's reaching to take his stuff. She's reaching to take his things, and he's like, they call me Yaya. So he's like, Yaya, Yaya,
Yeah.
Granny trying to get my cup. And I says, well, honey, why don't you come in here and just sit with me? And at 3 years old, his response was, I think that's a good idea. So
That's cool.
I get to see the child's perspective lived out in front of me. I don't have to conjure it up or create it. I'm watching the kid's perspective.
Hmm. Really good. Really, really good. How has the child in here, the interaction with great granny, evolved over the years?
It evolved, at first she was small, 3, 4 years old, 5, loved to help. Like my 3-year-old now, 3-year-old grandson, he loves to share his toys with Granny. I'm
Oh,
sharing with Granny, you know. The 8-year-old, she went through a process of, or a point of being a little standoffish, because she doesn't know what to expect. This doesn't look right, because a child is used to an adult acting like what she expects an adult to act like.
expectations.
Expectations. And so now she has an adult who's really acting younger than her. My mom is probably about, age wise, if you can categorize it that way, she's probably doing the things that an 18-month-old would do.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it's a traveling backwards. Um,
Yes.
so her now watching this, there was a little, yeah, a little, what am I supposed to do with this? And so I just had a conversation with her. It's okay, baby. It's still Granny. You don't have to be afraid. Now, some dementia and Alzheimer's patients become angry and are fighting, and
Yeah.
that can be an aspect of it, but that's not my mom. My mom is still very mild mannered, very loving. So it's just a conversation. Sweetie, you don't have to be afraid. It's okay. But if there's ever something that you don't want to do, that's okay too. You tell me. Just treating her the way I would want to be treated as a human being, not as an adult, but just as a human being.
One of the things I'm very passionate about is intergenerational communication.
Hmm.
And this is so wonderful because this is young generation, then there's yourself, and then there's, so it's great grand communicating with great grandchild. It's like, when you watch this, how do you feel?
I'm honored, I'm honored just to have grown to this point. I often look at our family now and I think, wow, God, you took two, this little young boy and girl, 19 and 20 years old, and you have grown us to 13. And I count my mom in that number. So when I'm looking at the interactions and I'm looking at the things that are going on, one, it's showing me the life cycle and what is possible, what can happen. Um, it's showing me that things are seen differently through different sets of eyes, because I know I probably see through a very different set of eyes because I'm there all the time,
Right.
versus my grandchildren who are there many days of the week now because of this COVID, but
Sure.
they still don't live there. So it's not a constant for them. So, even if they've gone away for a while, it's a reacclimating because Granny may have changed from the last time they saw her. So, it's a journey.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting you bring up this point. How has the pandemic affected the communication between child and granny? Because I'm not going to make any assumptions here. So you tell us, how's that affected the communication and the relationship?
I think it's probably better because they're with me. They're with me several days of the week now with the school system being closed and daycare closed. So they're with me and with Granny more often. And that's the consistency. The same thing over and over. I was like, we're going to see Granny. So they come in the house. Hi, Granny. How you doing? And my mom can't answer, but they still know when you come in, speak to her. So I would actually say it's better because they've had more time to spend around her.
Nice. What would life be without this book for you?
Oh, what would life be without this book? I think it would feel like something is unfinished because since it was so strong in me to do, it was something that I know I needed to accomplish. So
Right.
without this book, I think there would be a hole or a longing saying, hey, you don't have it done yet. Hey, let's get it done. You don't have it done yet. So yeah, it would be a little hole there, that something I needed to finish.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Because of this book, are you getting people asking you more questions about this type of situation?
I have had more adults asking me questions.
Oh,
It's a book written for children, but I've had many adults to read it and ask questions or say, hey, I didn't realize that that's how this worked. I didn't understand dementia to this degree before. So it's interesting because I didn't write it for adults, but I see that it is having, yeah, I didn't write it
yeah,
with adults in mind, but
right.
I see that if you've never experienced it, you don't know.
Absolutely.
And so it's opening a door or conversation that's new for them.
Mm. What sort of inquiries are you getting from the adults?
I've had, well, how do you die from dementia? Or people not understanding that. And I'll use the phrase Alzheimer's versus dementia because
Sure.
um, Parkinson's, that was what I was trying to think of. Parkinson's actually falls under the umbrella of dementia. So people not understanding that you actually die from Alzheimer's, that it is unless God performs a miracle and an intervention, there's no cure at this point. So it is a long-term death sentence right now.
Wow.
And the person doesn't really know what's going on. So it's the change for the loved ones that you
Hmm.
really have to make that change. I've had people to ask, they don't understand how an adult can act like a child. So in the book, I talk about granny coloring. And, I've heard people say, um, don't talk down to them. Don't disrespect them. You're not disrespecting or talking down to them at all, but you're meeting them where they are. If I was to give my mom a knife and a fork and say, here's your dinner,
Hmm.
that would be irresponsible.
Absolutely.
So it's not talking down or letting her be something that I shouldn't, that now I will let her eat with her fingers. A child, when they're learning to eat, they eat with their fingers.
Yes.
So she doesn't know how to eat with a knife and a fork, but she knows how to eat with her fingers. So it's not to disgrace her or play her down or
Hmm.
she would never do that. Okay, but this is not the same person you used to know. And now she's darn good at eating with her fingers. And so that's what I'm going to let her do.
What is, from where you sit and you're observing, what's been the toughest part of your grandchild going through this situation? Has she had any tough moments?
It's the understanding, the tough moments. I'll tell you just what I just talked about, actually, because
Yes.
that was a tough moment for her, for my granddaughter, seeing Granny eat with her fingers, eat with
Mm,
her hands, because that goes against everything you're taught.
right.
The thing that helped me with that was one of my mother's caregivers is from Ethiopia. And so her philosophy was, she's just eating like an Ethiopian, leave her alone, you know? And that took the weight off.
Yeah, love.
It took the
Wow.
weight off. It took the
That's so
weight off.
smart.
In every situation, you have a choice where you're going to focus. And my philosophy is think on the lovely. Think on what is lovely. And that was the way of finding
Deborah,
lovely in that
Deborah,
situation.
you need to trademark that. Think on the lovely. You need to
Mm,
trademark that.
mm,
I
yeah.
love that. Think
Yeah.
on the lovely.
And you might have to dig for it, but you're going to find it.
It's powerful.
You're going to find it it's such an emotional journey. I know I cried literally. I'm not even speaking figuratively. I cried every day for a
Mm.
good 3 years.
How did you get through?
It was tough.
I could imagine, but how did you get through? Because you must have had some serious lows.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like I said, it's lying to say that every day somebody is happy. No, life happens to us all. And those tough days were when I had my dad in one hospital bed and my mother not knowing what's going on. So the
Mm.
Alzheimer's was really kicking in for her. And my dad had had major strokes. So he was left bedridden for 10 years before he passed. And so I'm taking care of both of them, you know? And
And
I
you are
literally,
strong.
literally, it's a matter of, you do what's in you to do. You do what's in you to do. If you do, you stand up and do what's in you to do. And so that's what I've done, all these years. But I believe it was probably 3 years every day I cried. And it's like, God, show me, tell me, help me through this thing. Because you have to understand that as an adult, it's one thing when you work in, say, a nursing home, or you are the hired caregiver. I'm not diminishing
I
their role
understand.
at all, because
I
it's
get
great.
it.
But when it's your parent,
Your flesh and blood.
it's your flesh and blood, and you are literally watching them get closer to death, not day by day, but year by year. So it's a long process. For most, it's not a slow process. It's a long process. So I mean, come on, you're talking about 365 days in a year, 365 days in a year, 300, here we go again. Here we go again. So it's that long haul process of watching your loved one's day-to-day journey.
Hmm. Wow. I'm happy you worked through it. I know that you still probably have some challenging moments, but my goodness,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like I know that you're a firm proponent of giving yourself grace.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You have to. You wouldn't make it if you didn't. I mean, you wouldn't make it in life, period, if you didn't give yourself grace. Now,
Mm,
in this situation, you better give yourself grace,
mm.
because you don't necessarily know what's coming from moment to moment or day to day. You could see a change. Now, I'll tell you this, and I don't know how well known this is, that many older adults, when they experience a UTI, it almost sends them straight into dementia.
What's a UTI?
Oh, I'm sorry, a urinary tract infection.
Okay, thank you.
For older adults, for our elderly community, for a lot of them, a urinary tract infection can send somebody who's talking to you just like I am. And then tomorrow, it's like, what happened?
You need to get this stuff out to us.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Just that fact right there. I'm sure anyone who watches it, I'm sure definitely less than 50% of the people know that. Definitely
Yes.
less than that.
Yeah. It's been a learning process. I'll tell you another one is that I used to hear about, and I, I had asked for forgiveness because I would hear about people dying of not enough water,
Yes.
dying of dehydration in
Yes.
these facilities. And it's like, what? Just give them some water. That's the initial thought. But it's
Hmm.
not just that easy because I've experienced it with my mom. And what happens is sometimes when people get older and with this Alzheimer's condition, their body is not maintaining the amount of water that it needs to maintain. So you're giving them water and it's coming straight out. The body has not utilized it properly. So you're going, how can she be dehydrated? Like with my mother, I'm like, no way. Check her again because I know how much water she gets every day. But it was a fact that, or a point that her body was not utilizing the water properly. So the solution that they gave me was to put a little bit of salt in her water.
Oh,
We always think stay away from salt,
yes.
stay away, too much salt. But for people who their bodies are not retaining the water, they
Yep.
don't have the salt. So having salt, because like you want to not have the salt because you don't want to retain the water. But for someone whose body is expelling all of the water, they need a little salt to help them retain it.
Yeah. Because it was like salt crystals, the water would hold on to the salt crystals. I'm no doctor, but I just guessed that one out.
And that little change has taken her from being dehydrated to, okay, your water is staying where it should. Your body is utilizing the water properly. Add a pinch of salt to the water.
Well, we're going to come to a close of this conversation because there's going to be many more to come because Deborah is dropping knowledge bombs about this, but also other areas she's going to come back and share with us. I'm going to give you a final conversation piece in 3 parts.
Okay.
What has your mother during this situation taught you about you? That's part 1. So I'll let you answer that.
Oh, wow. My mom, in this situation, my mom has been the vehicle to help me really get a greater grasp on unconditional love because there are no conditions with this. Whatever she's doing, she doesn't mean to do it. I understand how seniors can get abused in these facilities because they're doing things that can be harmful, but they don't mean any harm. My mom will bite you if you get too close. She means no harm. You're not going to retaliate. There have been moments where, there's a little small phase where she was mean. She had like a month where she was mean. And it's like, this is not my mother.
Hmm.
My mother was the kindest, most loving. This is not my mom. What? So it showed me then, even she's not responsible for what she's doing. Take a step back, let her get it all out, and we're going to move on to the next thing. So the different facets of unconditional love. I mean, I'll say that forgiveness and unconditional love are not the same thing. Forgiveness may be a piece of unconditional love, but it's not the same thing. Because you can forgive somebody for pushing you, for yelling, for whatever. But when you look at somebody and say, I see you with brand new eyes every day.
Mm.
Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you use the bathroom on the floor. Doesn't matter if you toss your food over because you just didn't know that's what it was. Doesn't matter if you've pushed or, it doesn't matter. Every day, brand new eyes, we start again. What we gonna do today, mommy? Let's go. I would say
Oh.
unconditional love.
What is the little grandchild taught you about you during this situation, or all your grandchildren?
What they have taught me in this situation, Of course, I've got, grown adult children if I have grandchildren, but
Yep.
I think what I even see more that maybe I didn't see so much in my own children is how much they can comprehend. We sell them short because they're small. They're not going to be able to handle it. They're not ready for that yet. And they've taught me that they're little people with big containers. They can actually
Oh, I
hold a
love
lot.
that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's on point. I love that. And then finally, what has the book taught you about you?
The book has taught me about me, how quickly I can accomplish something, because it was a quick work. It's taught me that I actually like this writing thing. So I've written a couple of more books to come.
Good. Good for
Um,
you.
it's taught me that even in the midst of adversity, because even though I make the best of it, it is adversity because this is not the life that I would choose for my mom. But it's taught me that even in the midst of adversity, even in the midst of my life changing, I
Mhm.
can find something new.
Wow. Deborah, you hit it out of the park.
Yay.
Fantastic. People, definitely, we're going to have her back because she has so much love to offer. If you want to find out more about her, here's her Instagram. If you're watching this, her Instagram, and I'll say for people who are listening to it on a replay, is Deborah L Mills. That's DeborahLMills on Instagram. On Facebook, just look at Deborah J. Rome. Rome as in Roman Empire, Rome. So Deborah, DeborahJ. Rome. And if you're watching this live on the replay, the link is there for the book on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. Again, the title of the book is Granny Needs My Help, A Child's Look at Dementia and Alzheimer's. Important book for many of us, I think. And I think about it now. Yes, adults are probably getting it much worse, if not more than the children, because adults have to deal with this also.
Mm-hmm. And adults have to be able to explain it to the
The
kids.
children, that's a whole other conversation, which
Mm-hmm.
let me ask you before how should, from your perspective, how should they explain it to the kids?
I think it should be explained to the kids on their level. Like I said, they're little people with big containers,
Yeah.
but you want to put bite-sized pieces in there that they can handle. It's like a child can chew hamburger, but they may have a hard time chewing steak. So you want to break it down to a point where they understand what's going on. And if they ask you questions 100 times, allow them to ask because they are trying to comprehend and get an understanding. And I would say whatever they see their loved one doing, because Giselle sees her granny doing some things that seem odd for an adult, explain it to them. Don't glaze over it. Like this is normal because really it's not normal.
Oh,
It's not normal. So I would say explain it to them.
wonderful. Well, Deborah, I hope it's not another 6.5 years. I want to make sure that you always have a home here, no matter when you want to come back. But I will make sure you're back at least one more time before the end of the year because there is a wealth of evaluated experience that you need to share with my audience. I'd like to bless you and your family on what you have done, what you are doing, and obviously there's a lot yet to come. So my blessings on to you. It is Dr. Vibe here. I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I host the only online conversation in the world that is sponsored for dads and fathers in the world, that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and also Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And also you can touch base with me too. One of the other ways is through the Global Food and Drink Initiative. It's a multimedia nonprofit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are involved in food, wine, and travel. As always, I like to say at the end of my conversations, actually thank Natalia for watching this live. Thank everyone who watches this live or on the replay and also listens on the replay. Like to close out with this as always. You're blessed and highly favored. Not I got it wrong this time. God, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And as always, remember to give yourself grace. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith and walk good. Thank you for watching, everybody. God bless.